Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Gajewska, and I work as project coordinator at the Union of the Baltic Cities Sustainable Cities Commission. And I will be hosting this webinar today with my colleague Maria Andreeva, who will take care about the technicalities. So I would like to warmly welcome you all at this UBC on the climate change adaptation through stormwater management. But before we get started with the content and the program and the very interesting presentations we have prepared for you today, I would like to go over a couple of logistics for this webinar. So as a participant, your microphones will be muted during the webinar. And if you have any questions for our speakers, please type them in the question box at the bottom of the navigation panel on the side. And there's also a chat box, so if you have any other comments for us or any further questions you would like to, topics you would like to raise, use also a chat box. And at the end of the webinar, I will raise all the questions in the for respective speakers at the order as they arrived and as the times allows us to. This webinar is being recorded and it will be available on our website at www.ubc-sustainable.net. So please go to visit if you find this interesting and would like to go back to what we discussed today. So let me start with a little bit with the organization that I'm representing. I will say a couple of words about the Union of the Baltic Cities Sustainable Cities Commission. So we are a voluntary network of the leading network of over 70 cities from the Baltic Sea region that work together in 7 different thematic commissions on various important aspects of urban sustainability, like integrated water management, as climate change adaptation, resource and energy efficiency, multimodal mobility, or urban planning. And in our network, we provide support for the cities through different formats. So, for example, we organize various thematic trainings and webinars as this webinar, and we implement international EU-funded projects. We organize study tours, and we also have various tools for exchange of good practices and experiences between our cities. One of our most recent online tools for exchange of good practices is Baltic Smart Water Hub that you can see now on the screen as well. And it's an online portal for sharing of the water expertise, of the good practices in integrated water management through various water sections. So we have good practices in freshwater, in stormwater, wastewater, and seawater. And I encourage you to visit the hub to check also the cases that are going to be presented in today's webinar there. And today we are going to listen to the principles of modern urban stormwater management in relation to the climate change. And we will have a keynote speech from Professor Matthias Barjenbruch from Technical University of Berlin and Urban Water Management Department, and a chairman of the DWA German Association for Water, Wastewater and Waste Regional Group Northeast. After the keynote presentations, we will have concrete examples of solutions stormwater management from 3 cities, from Copenhagen, Helsinki and Gdansk. So let's go to our first presenter, Matthias. I will give you the floor now.
Yeah, thank you, Agnieszka, for the introduction. I also warmly welcome you here in our webinar. So the presentation is on already. I'll just briefly introduce our Department of Urban Water Management at the TU Berlin. So one of our main topics is rainwater management, rainwater treatment, but we have also quite good expertise on the topic energy wastewater sludge nexus. So there we had an interesting project together also with UBC, interactive water management, and we developed a benchmarking for the energy consumption and for the sludge handling, and also a self-audit tool. Additionally, we are working also at the Mediterranean Sea. There we have a project on mangroves and reed beds and constructed wetlands. And actually our main topic is the removal of microplastic in the water courses. So I also tackle a little bit microplastic as a pollution on the roads and due to the traffic. So urban water or urban stormwater management is mainly actually driven by the climate change. So we have to make adaptations in our water courses in the city, and also the growing cities. More than the half of the people in the world live in cities, and it's still increasing. So the presentation slapped in. On the next slide, you would see our office. So we have 20 collaborators, but due to the Corona crisis, now you find the empty office, and you have to find Corona. This is a huge issue. Also, we have detected it also already in wastewater, but I guess not in rainwater. So if there are any questions, we can discuss it also later. Also, the next slide, it's not. So the basic tasks for the rain or stormwater management and the new challenges are given here. So the basic is a proper drainage of the settlement, maybe realizing a rain event from 50 minutes, which appears all 2 years. So we have huge experience on that. We have sewers, maybe started in the middle of the 19th century, so built out of bricks, you can see here. But we have new tasks to realize the water quality, the pollution on the roads has increased, and so we have also to treat the stormwater in a proper way. Then, due to the climate change, we have additional heavy rainfalls, flash floods. You see here, it's not a traffic jam, it's a heavy rainfall on my way home with my bicycle, by the way, but I couldn't pass these cars. Also, we have to care for the climate of the city. The heat is much stronger than before. It's increasing. We have an awful April, so also the years 2018 and 19 were very hot. So heat island effects, and also the drought. So we need to irrigate our parks, and we need to cover the growing cities. The ceiling we have done already, asphaltos pavements, and also we have a loss of biotopes. So as a motivation, I have here the flood created by a newspaper, and this is at the Potsdamer Place in Berlin. So they assumed that the sea level rises so high, but this wouldn't happen because Berlin is at a level of 55 meters. So, and the sea level, the hugest expectations is just 19 centimeters. So some basics on the climate change. So we can struggle as we want. If we work further as usual, the heating up of our atmosphere will increase up to 5 degrees. So this is given here by Mr. Becker, the head of the German water service. And if we implement all climate protection, which we agreed already, but we do not realize, then we would just keep the 2-degree aim, but in that case, we need to calculate with negative emissions. So routes are given here. This is a reservoir in the Harz Mountains. So also drinking water supply gets scared. And other effect we had already this year, again, fires in the forest. We have to fight the burning of the forest, and also the forest support the climate change, or the effects, the negative effects of the climate change. So what has it to do with the rainfall? Here I have an overview also from the German Water Service. The average is 800 millimeters over the years. So, but there's a slightly trend in increase already. You can see here the black line. So a slightly increase of the rainfall over the years. But we have, and I mentioned it already before, we have more extreme rain events. So they mainly will take place in summer, and they will happen much more often. So, and you can see the distribution on the map of Germany. They can appear everywhere. The German Water Service, or the German Weather Service has already an alarm system implemented. So in 2 steps, 10 millimeters 1 hour rain expected. It's the first warning. You can get also an app for that, catastrophic app. So I have loaded down this app also. It's not only for the rainfall. Actually, it delivers also corona information. So, and 25 millimeters per 1 hour is the second step for the warning. So the other issue is that the people like to gather around, to come close to each other, not just 1.5 meters. So they like to live in cities. And that's why we cover more and more the surface. And so actually we have in Germany around 70 hectares new covered surface per year. So 70 hectares means 15 square meters per second. 15 square meters, it's just a studential room. Yeah? So we have to reduce this. So, and also we have to adapt. We have to adapt, and I took this from a nice presentation from the Netherlands. They have a lot of experience with water. They live underwater. So adaptation is needed, and I want to show you the methods. So the first part is the conventional rainfall. I mentioned it already. We have to prevent no flooding of the street. We have the drainage here, the water from the roofs. So the conventional system, maybe 15 minutes rain, and which appears 2 years. So then we have rare heavy rains, or though I mentioned already, they will appear quite more often. So then we also need to use the open spaces and the traffic space, the roads, for transportation. So for transportation of the water, not for the traffic. You can see here, you have to calculate the pathways, the flood pathways for the water. And on the hugest event, to protect us from the hugest event, we need property protection. I also will explain it. So safety of the houses, so that there's no flooding of the houses. Yes, the base for our calculation is the water balance. We have to look and be oriented to the natural water base. So on the left-hand side, there's given a small example, maybe 40% transpiration, 10% just 10% runoff, and around 50% infiltration into the soil. So, but if we create a city, we have a heavy impact on the water balance. So the evaporation is reduced, in this case down to 30%. The runoff, we have to increase the runoff by our drainage systems up to 55%, and so the infiltration is much too low. So we have to check this, and in all our plannings we have to keep back and look on this objective that we have to compare the natural water balance of a similar area to our planned real estate or district or site level. And then we have to adjust the water balance by the options we have, the methods and the measures. We have to implement more evaporation or more infiltration. And our recommendation is that you should not change the water balance, so the single components of the water balance, more than 10%. And because the evapotranspiration is really difficult to implement, no one likes, or not all architects like green roofs. So then we can allow maybe here 20%. So looking at the pollution, the pollution is given by our actions in the environment in our city. So we have dust, we have excrement, maybe from the dogs, for example. We litter the roads, coffee cups and whatever. We have the wear of our road, surface tire wear. So in Germany, the largest impact is the tire wear, the largest impact of microplastic, the tire wear. We have a huge project on that. Also, the vegetation has an impact on the road litter, salts and defrosting, other defrosting agents, sands and so on, and also soil erosion and maybe leaflets from the construction action. So this is the pollution on the road. And what is the reduction or the transport? And having here a look on the right hand side. So the main reduction is the road cleaning. You should organize a proper road cleaning, maybe once or 2 times a week, or at special spots that's very needed, maybe in a curve or at a traffic light, because there is more tire wear. So we also looked at road cleaning engines and devices. So if you have a good one, you can remove 80 to 90% of the road dirt. So then we have also transport by wind, of course, to the housing sites, or maybe we have several lanes. And in the end, also the elimination takes place by the gully in the roadside. And then it comes to the sewer, to the wastewater treatment, or if we have a decentralized system, a separate system, then it will be imitated directly into our surface waters. Just having an overview or an insight of the pollution. So we are quite familiar in the wastewater with the COD. I have this is German, so but the COD. So the average is as expected as 100 in the stormwater from the roads. So the average in the effluent of a wastewater treatment plant is 27 in Germany. And we had here a road with 40,000 cars per day. We investigated it and made measurements, and you can see the COD rises up more than 200. Also, we find zinc and copper from the brakes and all the small particles. So the German concept is to look at the fine suspended solids, which are smaller than 63 micrometer, and then we look at the open space. What is the use for the open space? Maybe just a roof on the single house, then we would not expect much. So then we maybe are lower than 280, so then it's tolerable. But if we have higher concentration of suspended solids on our surface, then we have to implement treatment systems for the rainwater. So the conventional treatment we know very well. I mentioned already our sewers. So we have the combined sewers. Also, one question of mine would be, how many of you have combined sewers? Maybe which fraction in your city? So in Berlin, we have around 30% of combined sewer still in operation, but we have also 100 combined sewer overflows.
Perhaps I can here comment. We can ask for a bit of interaction from our audience. Matthias, could you please just hold on for a second, and I will ask our audience to answer the question: does your city have a separate or combined sewer system?
Okay. Okay.
Please answer one option. Is it separated, partly separated, or combined? Let's see. How is it with our audience? And we will soon share the results of the poll. So please tick one of the options. Yes, now we close the poll and we will share the answers in a moment. So here, can you see Matthias as well now? So the results are 17% has answered that the separated, 52% yes, and 52% partly separated, and 31% combined. So now we can continue with your presentation.
Okay. I expected this. Most of the cores of the city have the old system is combined, so that we have a huge share of different systems, separate and mixed system. So we have the holding tanks. I mentioned already this is a quite ambitious building here in Hamburg, below office building, a holding tank. We developed together with a partner an offshore system, to store the combined sewer water here as an example in the river Spree. So if we have a separate sewer systems, we can also implement sedimentation tanks. We can see here also stormwater holding tanks, and the high end of stormwater treatment. Maybe at first I mentioned in Germany we installed up to 700 liters per inhabitants of storage volume. Yeah, that's the average. Yeah, so and it's still increasing. You can see from 630 to 703. So the high end of the treatment in a separate system is a retention soil filter. You can handle the peaks of the flow. You can eliminate all the suspended solids. You can eliminate phosphorus and also COD. And the space demand is just 100 square meters per hectare of area to be dewatered. Coming to some new options, and here we have the water balance in the center, evaporation, retention, infiltration, and the options around green roofs for the evaporation, street greening. Also, we have nice tram street greenings and green facades, several options, tree pits, which we have developed. Also ponds. Pond is for the retention, but also for, of course, for the evaporation systems and infiltration. So I will briefly explain all the systems. I try to hurry up. So we have on the one hand, we can decouple already space which was sealed by pavements or whatever. We can implement other traffic surface, porous asphaltos, for example. Also, we can use rainwater harvesting at the houses. We can improve the infiltration. This can be done in decentral or centralized. Then we can build all these ponds, roof. Also, urban agriculture can contribute to a certain value for the water balance. I mentioned this street cleaning. What we have developed is the tree pits. We go into this, and also the intelligent system, and to keep a quite good elimination of the microplastic and the dust on the roads, we suggest decentralized stormwater management, although there's a high maintenance affordable for that. Decoupling. So this is an example from the city of Essen. You can see these are the houses, and all the yellow parts are decoupled from the drainage. So there's a new capacity in the sewer, and we have, or they have built swales here, multifunctional swales. You can see here is a dry season, but this is a swale for the water. But you can also dry your laundry and take a sun bath. So unsealed traffic layers, this is also developed from our friends in the Netherlands. The open porous asphaltus, so it's quite efficient for the drainage, but all the fine particles will clog these pores, so we have to do more and very efficient road cleaning. Yeah, so there's an overview here given for all the possibilities for the infiltration. You can look at this overview later. I will show you the options in detail, but always we need a certain amount of surface, of free surface, and the ground, the soil has to offer a good infiltration capacity so that we can infiltrate the rainwater. So at first, grass paver blocks or pavement with gaps, you can see it's quite efficient. You need at least 6% of gaps of the width of this pavement so that you can drain the water directly on the place where it falls down. If you have less space, maybe here is an option also for two options from Berlin. You can implement a swale. We have seen the swale already. This is for several houses and also for the pavements and the sidewalks. And additionally, there are ditches with gravel to increase the infiltration capacity. If you have less space or maybe less also infiltration capacity, you can build subsurface storage, maybe with plastics. It's given here, subsurface storage with plastic, and from here you can filter out water into the ground. So this trench infiltration. A variant of this trench infiltration, which is developed by the consultant Sika, which we collaborate very close together with, is the deep bed trench. So it can be implemented just in the road. The water can be treated there, can be stored. Also, you can store it below the ground, and there's a quite low space demand, and additional, it calms down the traffic maybe in residential areas. Also green roofs. Green roofs improve the evaporation, but they also buffer the peak of the effluent from a roof, and it's additional habitat for organisms. And also we have a contribution to the microclimate on the roof, a better thermal isolation, but we have to keep in mind the weight of the additional green roof. So maybe it's not easy to implement directly. We can differentiate between intensive green roofs here with trees and so on, very nice, or also green roofs, extensive green roofs. Additionally, to the green roofs, we can build up green facades. That's also possible. So this is a conventional one on the left-hand side, but these are artificial green facades. You always have to keep in mind, during the dry period, we have to provide additional water. We need a cistern or a pond. What we have developed also with together with the consultant Sika and concrete factory is the tree drain. So the road often has trees at the side. So, and we can use this tree or the place for the tree to store the water, to treat the water, and after the rainfall, we have the possibility to evaporate the water by the tree, and additionally contribution to the microclimate. So this was our pilot plant at the International Garden Fair some years ago, and it was very effective. Another option is rainwater ponds. Also here we were involved in the consulting. So it's a new residential area, very nice houses. Here I wouldn't afford this one. So we have planned additional ponds to collect the rainwater, and within this pond we have created a filtration unit. So that we have a natural filtration which looks quite well, and so we can eliminate all the particles and so on. We didn't expect that people throw in fishes, so this could be difficult. So, and the newest thing we also developed with Sika is the system, the intelligent system. So a conventional system there, it's quite often used worldwide. In Germany, we have just 1.5 million. Each year, 80,000 new ones. So just saving drinking water. So it's just a contribution, saving drinking water, saving money. But additionally, it offers new space in the sewer system when we don't have this rainwater in the sewer system. So, and the idea of the intelligent system is to predict the rainfall. Now, here you can see weather forecast, and to empty the system just by the information from the radar, so from the rainfall prediction, and then we have the capacity to store water directly at our house. So last but not least, I also want to mention the decentralized stormwater treatment. Decentralized stormwater treatment, there are different elements, filter systems given here, or special filter systems. We tried them out. We had quite good eliminations here at the road with these 50,000 cars per day, but we realized that there was a high maintenance needed to clean them up. But this can be developed also in future. So we made a brochure here for all those decentralized systems given out by the Berlin Senate. So at least I also want to care for this flood protection. Flood protection is needed. So we need to calculate the flow paths at the surface. We need to detect depressions where we can store water, and we need to make a hazard analysis where are important buildings or points where a lot of damage can appear. So then you can make a map and you can make a strategy for that. And the first idea, for example, is using a children's playground during a heavy rain event. So we have this space, and I guess children wouldn't play outside during the rain event, and so we can drain the water to this place. So you will have to also think about to drain the water afterwards, because after the rain, maybe the children want to go out, like they want to go out after Corona. Also using the space on the road. Yeah, if you have a special grade here, you can realize a certain retention volume on your road, and you can see here this is a rain event, and just after the rain when nothing happens to the road. And if the flood comes much higher, we also have to protect our building by maybe backwater protection, lifting up the entrance, also waterproof basements, and you can see here different methods to protect your real estate. At least in one example from Berlin, so no one maybe knows this, the Potsdamer Place, the very famous, was open until Germany was unified, so nothing happened there, and then they had to build something new, and the small canal here has no capacity to take water. So they were ordered to limit the discharge of the water, and they built up green roofs at the Potsdamer Place. They built up rainwater harvesting systems and also open water spaces. You can see here. Yeah, coming to the end, challenges for the implementation of a water-sensitive city, and this is also one part of my questions maybe in the end. I think at first the stakeholders have to get the knowledge of all the elements and on the need. And also, I'm sure that all the consultants and planners have the ability to calculate maybe with 2, 3 or 3D models and so on. So the region planning was only focused on the drainage, but we need to build up the competences in the different authorities. I'm convinced of that. And also in the cities, we need a strict coordination with all the planning departments, like traffic planning, spatial planning, city planning, and of course, I haven't listed here, water planning, drainage planning. So also maybe we need regulations. So if the state does not make regulations, we can also make regulations for our own city or settlement, rules for flood protection, creating open spaces. And in Germany, we have a rainwater fee, for example. So you have to pay for each sealed surface, maybe €1.90 per square meter. And if you decouple it, you can use this money for the decoupling or whatever. And we also have to think about integrated planning, decrease of concentration of the housing, and looking at open spaces for flood protection and infiltration. So in the end, I want to show you the vision we had some years ago together with the Imperial College London, which is also often mentioned in the Corona crisis now. We had a project, the Blue-Green Dream. So actually we have a project called the Blue-Green Street. And my vision is also to make, oh, what's that? The Blue-Green City, yeah? A water-sensitive city. That's the focus we have to work on. So thank you for your attention. And please write questions in the chat. And yeah, I give back my mic. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Matthias. It was really amazing, very inspiring and motivating, I would say, presentation with many solutions. I would like to remind as well our audience, please, everyone, type your questions to the question box in the navigation panel, and we will raise those questions to our experts at the end of the webinar. We would like to have one more fast poll. You prepared, Matthias, a question, so we can take one more poll before we will go to another presenter, Jess from Copenhagen, and more practical examples. But shortly you will see the question on your desk. Okay, so now I hope everyone can see the question. Do you have already faced more heavy rains and drought periods in your cities? Yes or no? We will wait for a while when everyone clicks the answers, and soon we'll share it. Okay, so we are sharing with you. Okay, so yeah, 84% answered that yes, there are more heavy rains events and drought periods, and 60% no. So obviously we are all concerned with the climate change already and have similar challenges to solve. But let's go now to the practical presentation. So I'm happy to introduce Jess Clauson-Kaas from City of Copenhagen, HOFOR water utility. Jess is a senior consultant, and he will share with us the practical examples of how the City of Copenhagen is implementing the stormwater solutions. And please, Jess, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Agnieszka. I hope everybody can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you well.
Nobody is saying no. Anyway, I'm just Clauson-Kaas. I come from Greater Copenhagen water utility, and it's called HOFOR. We are the largest utility company in Denmark with 1,300 employees. We are doing planning, design, and then we are overlooking the implementation, and we are doing operation. So we are not contractors. We are a multi-utility because besides supplying drinking water and wastewater services, we are also supplying district heating, district cooling, and town gas, which means we are a main player in reducing CO2 emission from Copenhagen. Yep, go one down. I'll just take you a little bit back in history. Swimming in the harbor in Copenhagen was always popular, almost a popular demand. Here we are back more than 100 years ago, and you can see the gentlemen dress up nights for the women's competition already in 1905. It couldn't continue like this. The water, the harbor got seriously polluted, and bathing in the harbor was prohibited. In the 1970s, Denmark embarked on a receiving water quality plan, and every municipality had to prepare a wastewater master plan. Copenhagen prepared one the first one in 1976, and it was then renewed every 4 years since then. This led to a lot of construction of retention tanks. We have a combined sewer. Copenhagen municipality is almost 100% combined sewer. The surrounding municipalities, which is also part of HOFOR, they are much more separate systems. But Copenhagen itself has combined systems. So retention tanks were necessary at that time, and that led to that we could close many of the overflows into the harbor. And further, 3 advanced wastewater treatment plants were constructed. So here's an example of a retention tank, 30,000 cubic meter, built in an old harbor area. The result was in 2002, the water in Copenhagen harbor complied to EU bathing water directive. And since then, since 2002 up till today, there has been no disease outbreaks which could be referred to the quality of the bathing water. There's a model predicting the water quality in the harbor, and if there are overflows into the harbor, a red flag is hoisted, where you can see a green flag here in the middle. 2nd July 2011 was a real game changer. We had this extreme flood event, and causing a lot of damages all over the city, a combined damage of above 1 billion euro. And since there were so many people affected by this flooding, there was a very broad political support that something needs to be done, also at national level. A cloud-burst management plan was then prepared for Copenhagen, subdividing the city into 7 hydraulic catchments, and at the same time describing these catchments for their urban features, because it was agreed that a lot of the rainwater will have to be handled on the surface and not in pipes. At the same time, the government prepared a new regulation stating that all handling of rainwater should be financed by the water company, so that this is financed on the water bill. So we have a budget now on 1.4 billion euro and 20 years to implement this. So financing is not being discussed because the money is there and it's put on the water bill. The second important thing was the level of capacity in this extreme rain handling system. What size of rain should we design for? There will always be a bigger rain coming. And we made a business case comparing the investment to the potential loss. And if we did that comparison, we agreed that we should end up on a design level of 100-year rain in 100 years' time. There's a climate factor to that. So statistically, 100-year rain in 100 years' time. The water would then be allowed to be 10 centimeters up against a building. So the building owners will have to protect their building against 10 centimeters of water. That was the design, and then we could start developing solutions. Important is that your solution is hydraulically together. You can put up a fancy feature on a square and making storage on a square here, or you can make some green roads, but what role do they play in controlling the flooding? You have to prepare a coherent plan, and here it is for a subcatchment, and the plan consists of streets transporting water, of retention places, of green streets with green plants and features, which we just have seen in the previous presentations. And all this is draining down to a major pipe system or tunnel system, taking the water into the sea. But the comprehensive plan is a key to making sure that every intervention you make is playing a role in the overall picture in achieving a service level for the whole city. When you are working on the surface, you have to work closely with the municipality because they have urban renewal plans, either for a whole area. This is also including some low-income areas which need uplifting. There is a churchyard where 1/3 of the churchyard is going to be a public park, etc. So this is the churchyard, the development plan for the churchyard. There are streets that has to be upgraded. There are inner yards where you could keep water back, and a program for doing this. And of course, parks that you can rebuild, make more fantastic landscape-wise, and at the same time retaining water. So all in all, cooperation between the water company and the municipality means that you divide the work between you. We can manage all the hydraulics. We can also do a lot of the design and the design and overlook the construction. The municipality are issuing discharge permits, are developing urban space with landscape architects. Some of the areas are conservation areas, old buildings, and for also old trees that need to be protected. And of course, there's the whole street upgrading, street renovation, etc. In between HOFOR and the municipality, by the way, HOFOR is 100% owned by the municipality. So it's a municipal-owned independent company. In between, there are all the private roads and private streets and the building associations. They were also flooded on 2nd July 2011. So they are ready to participate also. And by the way, a lot of the hydraulics, we are, the HOFOR are financing because it's cheaper to invest in them retaining water compared to building larger pipes or tunnels. So that's all the time the argument. We can spend money on these green solutions as long as it is saving us investment in pipes and tunnels. Here we have an example of a branch of a subcatchment. There is this churchyard, there is a major hospital, 5-story buildings, and a big park. And then there are some railways crossing through. They are challenged in extreme rain, and as soon as you are in the blue, you are above the 10 centimeter, and we should keep below 10 centimeter. In a park or in a lake, of course, it can be deeper because it's causing no damage. But if you are close to buildings, like you can see on some of these blue, 10 centimeters. So here you can see a number of places where we have challenges. And we even have challenge during daily rain. Daily rain is less than a 10-year rain in Denmark. The combined sewer should be able to accommodate a 10-year rain. So you can see our combined sewer doesn't have enough capacity. And therefore we have to start disconnecting rain from the sewer. So we are combining the flood protection, the extreme rain control with securing the capacity of the combined sewer. Here is a complete solution for this area, and we are busy constructing these things. You have here retention basins, here on the churchyard, here it is on the playground, between green areas in the buildings. Here's this park they are busy rebuilding right now. There are pipes because of the topography. We also have line drains. I'll show you examples of these. There are green features around the trees that we've just heard about. This has been built now and are functioning very well along this street. And then you have all these green streets with the green features holding back water and disconnecting and treating rainwater. All this water, the surplus water that cannot be held back in green solutions, is being drained down to a major tunnel system here, which is running through the western part of the city and taking the surplus water into the sea. You cannot make a full flood protection with green solutions only. It's going to be a combination. We were asked immediately to do something after the flood events, also for political reasons. We put in these line drains here. This is just behind the harbor, and a lot of water is standing deep there because we have raised the seawall to protect against flood from the sea. But now we have put in these line drains, a new tunnel system, and take it out through the seawall with a non-return valve. And by the way, we have the parliament here, and they can see we are doing something, and they rushed out to solve the financing problem, which was very good. And as we've seen before, green streets is now being implemented all over Copenhagen, especially many of these smaller private roads are implementing that. We have 100 of these streets now. Here's an example from the central city. We're using roof water for this feature, and when it's raining, the water can just pass through. If it's not, it is kept in a cistern. It is run through a filter and a UV, and it can be reused and recirculated. We have to do that to protect children because they're getting in contact with the water. We can also use our parks to let the water go in there. We must just remember, when you have a combined system, floodwater will always include a certain percentage of wastewater. It could be 1% only, but there is wastewater, and besides what comes from excreta from animals. So when this water has evaporated, infiltrated, or just we are at the moment calculating or estimating the risk from children playing in this park immediately after. The pathogens, the virus, the bacteria, the protozoa, etc., they will die off because they're in a hostile environment and they don't like the UV from the sun, but they will take time to die off. And if children go and play there, a 1-year-old, and throw the dummy and put it back into the mouth, there is a risk of infection. We are calculating this and finding out if we have to limit off the park for 1 week after a flood event like this. Urban heat, we are also breaking up the asphalt, putting in some green features. HOFOR will pay for excavating and arranging space for water. The municipality will invest in putting in plants, a bench, etc. And here you can sit and enjoy this nice green and area where there was asphalt before. Just remember, again, coming back to health, this water should not stay here for more than 5-6 days. Then you will start get mosquito breeding. It will not cause disease in Denmark at the moment, but as the climate is getting warmer, we could eventually start getting mosquito-borne diseases. So we have to include into our design, drain off stagnant water. Here, final example from the central city, St. Anne Square. A lot of flooding. It's close to the harbor. Water cannot get out into the sea. And we have lowered the central park. We have also put in a pipe system where we can retain water and use this for watering of the park during dry periods. And if it's raining, we are emptying all these cisterns, all these pipes, and they can be used for transporting the rainwater. Finally, I would like to invite you to come to Copenhagen. It was supposed to be in October, the World Water Congress. The whole world was supposed to come to Copenhagen in October. We don't think it's possible, but it is being postponed to May next year. And know a lot of the Baltic countries are involved in this, so I think it's a good place to meet and share your knowledge. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jess. That was really interesting to look at the complex solutions that you have in Copenhagen, really amazing, so many of them. And I'm sure that our audience will be as well inspired. We allow the typing the questions. There are a couple of questions to you, but let's take them after all presentations. I just remind that more questions are welcome. And we are coming to Copenhagen in May to the IWA conference. So hope to see you there.
Sure.
Great, thank you. Okay, let's move to the city of Helsinki and Kajsa Rosqvist, a project manager at the City of Helsinki Environmental Office. So Kajsa, please, the mic is yours.
Well, thank you, Agnieszka. You hear me well, right? I guess so.
Yes,
otherwise
we hear you
tell me.
absolutely perfect. Yes, yes, we hear you very well.
Okay,
Thank
great.
you.
So thank you, UBC, for inviting me as a speaker here. It's a great honor for me. As Agnieszka told you, my name is Kajsa Rosqvist. I work as a project manager at the City of Helsinki Environment Services, and I've been working with different kind of water protection projects for several years, mainly targeting stormwater management and wastewater management. And I hope now in these few minutes to be able to give you a few glimpses of what we've been working with here. Now let's see if I can change the slide. Yes. Oh, no, not that much. Let's stop there. So it's really great that Matthias and also Jess has given us a background to these issues that we are talking about today, and also a lot of practical solutions. So it's great just now to jump on directly to different practices that we have been using, as all the main drivers and challenges have already been handled here. So I was thinking, what can I share with you in these few minutes? And I chose to try to talk about 3 different practices on 3 different levels that we have worked with in Helsinki. So first, let's start with the strategic level and the Helsinki Stormwater Management Program, then move to the planning level and the green area factor, which we have since a few years ago taken into use in Helsinki. And then I will give you 2 examples of more practical level of sustainable urban drainage solutions that we have been implemented. But let's start with now my slides are jumping again, but let's start with the Stormwater Management Program. So in 2016, the legislation changed in Finland, and the main responsibility for stormwaters within cities was directed to municipalities, and then also the focus for climate change resilience and also stormwater quality management rose in the city, and and that made the city to take the initiative to update the original program and to make it more integrated to the city administrative structure, and also to include practical measures and monitoring of these measures in the new program. You can see on the slide the cover page of the program, and following the link you can find the full version English language program if you would like to take a look at that. A few words or highlights from the program. I'm really happy that the first and overall aim that was chosen in this program was to use stormwater as a resource. And the wording is that stormwater has been utilized for increasing the attractiveness of the environment, maintaining biodiversity and promoting good condition of surface and groundwater. And there were also other aims, but I think that this overall aim kind of embraces them all. There were also aims for, of course, regional and local drainage, and with consideration of climate change and densifying city structures, but also aims for stormwater quality improvements, but also these kind of more administrative things, that cooperation and procedure models should be in place, and we should also take care of competence and resources within the city for proper stormwater management. In addition to these more or high-level aims, we included also this kind of more practical priority order in the stormwater program, and this is to open it up more for the actual practical planning level. So the planner for new areas should always start with the first bullet point here to try to treat the stormwater at the source. If that is not possible, maybe due to rocky ground that we have a lot in Helsinki, then the stormwater should be conveyed away in a system that retains and detains the water. If either that is not possible, then stormwater should be conveyed to a source where it can be, maybe on public areas, can be detained and retained before it's discharged in a brook or to the sea. Then bullet points 4 and 5, those are more or less pipe solutions and should be avoided, but in practice they are not in this situation yet. And the last point from this program, because I don't now have time to go through the actual practical measures, but we included 38 of those, and now you can see the topic of content. So if you're interested of the actual measures and also how this is monitored and reported, you can look them up in the program. But then we will move to the planning level, jumping quite quickly here and discuss the green area factor, which we have now been using for new development areas in Helsinki. I know that the green area factor is really not a new tool, but I still like to bring it up here because it has now been taken quite actively in use in Helsinki. One background slide here in the middle. Helsinki is a really fast-growing city. In the coming 30 years, the inhabitants will increase with 200,000 persons. And this will, of course, challenge urban stormwater management. It will lead to new development areas which are constructed, but it will also lead to densifying the already existing city structure. And this really calls for that we need to make sustainable stormwater management and try to plan these new areas in a sustainable way. So for those of you who are not familiar with the green area factor, it's a tool to ensure sufficient green infrastructure when building new blocks in a dense urban environment. And we have been using this for residential, really densely built residential areas in Helsinki. So the green area factor in its simplest way, it's actually the scored green area. That means the area where you have included green infrastructure that is divided with the total lot area, and then you get kind of the efficiency of the green infrastructure in the area. Here is a picture of how the green area factor Excel tool looks like. It consists of 5 different sheets. 2 of those are more or less descriptive ones, the instructions and also the descriptions on elements, which kind of green elements you can use. But then you have the 3 ones which are the actual calculation sheets and consist of limitations, the green elements you will add, and then the results. So on the limitation page, you will add kind of background information for your lot, the areas for buildings you will add, and the land use. And in Helsinki, we chose that the target level for your green area factor will be defined by the land use that you choose. And then you move to the green elements sheet, and there you start adding your green elements. And these can be green roofs or rain gardens or a lot of different, actually there are 40 different elements that you can choose in this tool. And then finally you come to the result sheet, and there you can then compare your achieved green area factor with the target level and look at did you achieve the target level here. There is also information about amount of stormwater that is handled on the lot compared to what you have been planning and those elements you have added. And then there are also these different kind of graphics where you can look at what kind of green elements, for instance, did you include. Then the last slide, I think, on the green area factor, I will try to show how it's used in planning in Helsinki. So first of all, the green area factor is added as a requirement in zoning regulations in the city plan in order to make it, in order to force the developer to use this green area factor. Another possibility, in addition to the zoning regulations in the city plan, we have also been adding the green area factor to lot assignments and land use agreements, so that the constructor or developer needs to, or knows that he needs to use the green area factor when taking the land into use. After that, then the developer will hire the garden designer who will make the green area factor calculated for the block or lot. And then in the end, the green area factor scorecard or the result is attached to the building permit, and then from the municipality side, the construction supervision is going through the scorecard and checking that the actual green area factor is achieved, or the target level is achieved. So this is a way to kind of force the green area factor to the planning process. Then we jump to the third practices, which I'm now going to present, and these consider sustainable urban drainage solutions. And of course, as you know from earlier and from the already given presentations, there are a lot of different techniques, but here I chose to focus more on the quality issues. Firstly, once again, a background slide. This is the core areas of City of Helsinki. Here you can see in gray the combined sewer areas, and in blue the separate stormwater systems. We have, or the water utility have taken the decision that we will move away from the combined system sewers, and these pipes will be separated, but this is not a fast thing to do. At the moment, 25 kilometers in 10 years, I think is something like the speed it's advancing with. So during that, and there is, I think, somewhat 200 kilometers. So we need to do something in between before we have separated everything in order to prevent flooding. Also, of course, on the stormwater piping areas, due to the densifying city structure, it's important to include green infrastructure to also prevent flooding here. But yeah, so this really calls for adding of green infrastructure in the city, in the city area. But as I already told you, I here chose now to focus on solutions that are improving also stormwater quality. And as you can see on the map here, there is a brook marked. It's Maunulampura Brook in Helsinki, and these two solutions are using the biofiltration technique in order to clean the stormwater before it's discharged to the brook. But we will start with the first one. It's biofiltration with sand. And on this picture, you see the ready solution. Firstly, you have a sedimentation basin. The stormwater is actually led under a pathway to the sedimentation basin, and then further on to the more green areas there, and then biofiltrate through the vegetation and sandy layers. And then here, if you see my arrow here in the back, it will go by drainage pipes here, and here is a ditch to the actual brook. And the purpose is to protect the sea trout, which is breeding here in the brook. So I already a little bit talked about how it works. Firstly, the stormwater is collected from heavily trafficked areas in collection wells. Then it's led under the road to a sedimentation basin, and after that to the actual biofiltration area, where vegetation and biological activity will take care of nutrients and heavy metals, and then biofiltrated through. Some of the water will also be infiltrated in the ground, but most of it's drained to the brook and then cleaned before it's discharged there. I think, I included one picture from the construction phase, so you can see that the main biofiltration material here of filtration media is sand. And we have been monitoring it now for a few years, and it shows quite well results for suspended solids, phosphorus, and heavy metals. And then one more solution. It's from the same area, also with the aim to protect the brook here. But here we used biochar and crushed stone as a filtration media. Here you can see the actual solution when it's being built here in the circle. And the drainage area consists of a densely built small industrial area. And this was the reason why we chose this site here for the solution. There have been some smaller occasions, but also quite big occasions with oil leakage from that industrial area. And now the aim was here to test if biochar can be used not only for quality management, but not only for quantity management, but for quality management of stormwater. If there's somebody who is not familiar with biochar, it's usually contains organic material of wood, which is produced by pyrolysis. And the reason for it being a potential filter media is because biochar is known to effectively bind excess water and also other substances. This solution is really new. It was taken into use in the end of last year, so we actually don't have any final results of how it's working. You can also see there are some willows planted here on the surface, but they have not grown yet, so we don't know the final results, how it will be working, but primarily it shows that it reduces nutrients, heavy metals, and bacteria, and also suspended solids. So hopefully it will also reach the goal of protecting the brook. And then I like to end with some final reflections, maybe not only based on these practices, but also based on what I've been experiencing here with working in Helsinki with these stormwater issues. So I think that multiple development levels are really important, that you need to advance and push the work on different levels, both strategic and policy level, but also the day-to-day work, and also by piloting. Even if it sometimes feels that how much use do you have of one pilot somewhere, but the process, I think, of pushing through a pilot's investments, for instance, it's also a learning process for all those persons involved, and they can then reproduce that process in another place. Overall, I think that new areas in Helsinki are built more sustainably at the moment than before. There is quite much infiltration on lots in new areas, and also the understanding of benefits of sustainable stormwater management is increasing. And the green area factor is seen as a good tool for this. All areas then again are a huge challenge due to lack of space and challenging height dimensions. But also here, I think that the city could be better in using public areas like parks, roads, and other areas for stormwater management, sustainable stormwater management. And also this idea that every time when something is renovated, it should be done according to a sustainable stormwater management objectives. And then it's kind of getting a routine for all the renovation processes. And we are actually starting also more now with focusing on retrofitting in residential areas. And then last but not least, the focus on quality management is growing generally in Finland, in addition to kind of basic quality management. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, Kajsa. It was really interesting to listen to your solutions, and also on the strategic level that you have also a stormwater management strategy. So it's more like organized in and with the monitoring and follow-up and all this. And this that you have seen out in your solution, which makes it not only stormwater but also a biodiversity. This is also interesting in the middle of city. But okay, thank you very much, Kajsa. I just remind to our audience that all questions to Kajsa can be typed in our question box. We will take it up pretty soon after our final presentation from the city of Gdańsk. So thank you, Kajsa. And I will give the floor now to the Magdalena Gajewska from city of Gdańsk. She is a doctor at the Gdańsk Technical University Department of Water and Wastewater Technology and a chair of IWA Scientific Group for Treatment Wetlands for Water Pollution Control. So Magda, we have your presentation now, and we look forward to hear what Gdańsk is doing in terms of sustainable stormwater management.
Hello, welcome everybody. I'm very happy to be with you today. It's my honor to present the development of our stormwater urban surface retention system in Gdańsk. As it was mentioned, I'm a professor at Gdańsk University of Technology, and I am happy to give the presentation on behalf of municipal company with the Polish name Gdańskie Wody, which we can say in English Water of Gdańsk. And this presentation will be from point of view of practitioner with small ingredients of a scientist. Okay, so few information about the city of Gdańsk. We are still growing in inhabitants. Sorry for the noise which is outside. Actually, as Matthias said, it's important to clean the streets, and today is the day when my street is undergoing the cleaning, so sorry for this noise. So we have about 500,000 of inhabitants with the area less than 300 kilometers. Important for us that our city of Gdańsk is rather long and not so wide. We have the natural resources with about 24% of green areas, which is of course generate us pros and cons, and I will tell you later about these all pros and cons which could appear in our city. In connection to this, what Matthias said in the previous first presentation, according to a scheme of development, we can say that Gdańsk city is somewhere between these water cycle cities and water sensitive cities, still far away from urban blue-green dream invented by Professor Cedar Maksimowicz. Gdańsk started to develop sewer system. We have fully separate sewer system. That's why I think that we are a very good example from the other point of view, because we have fully separate sewer system. And the sewer system was established at the end of 19th centuries, and since that time, separate sewer network were designed and developed in the city. Shortly, I'm not going to bother you with this information. I think that somebody who would like to compare the data, it will be interesting for this person to know what we have in the city. So as you can see, we have a huge amount of rain sewer system. It's about 800 kilometers. We have a lot of streams, which are our treasure and of course our treat. And we have a lot of retention reservoirs, which we developed. And I'm going to tell you how this system were developed within this many years. So looking at the network of the streams, you can observe here with my mouse, I hope it's visible, that our system is very complicated. We have a lot of streams which are coming from upper terrace and end up finally in Gdansk Bay. Here you can see how complicated is this management of the system, and all the streams with this separate sewer system and stormwater system are the recipient of stormwater discharge. As you can see here, condition of Gdansk, we are 3 cities connected very strictly. Actually, when you are driving the main road, it's not possible to distinguish, only the sign tell you that you are just crossing Sopot or Gdynia. And here you can see the hypsometric map, and we have here the sea level, and here, as you can see, we have hills, and the hills up to almost 200 meters above the sea level. So this caused a lot of problems and a lot of issues. And here you have the summing up these issues. So we have 3 latitude zones from depression to plateau. We have a very big slope within the city, and it creates large and fast outflow to the lower terrace of the city. This caused a lot of problems because our city is growing on the upper terrace. We have dense network of erosion valleys of various size, and these erosion valleys also could become, during the storm event, could become very easily as a kind of waterfalls which end up finally in our streets. We have also an impact of the sea. It depends on the state of the sea. We could have a very big problem. And we have numerous mountain streams which during the development of the city meets different barriers like roads, railways, and this causes a big issue to our city. So here you could see all the hazards, floods hazards in the city. With the arrow I marked this one which are growing during the last 20-30 years. It's storm events, sea issue, and of course streams, which could be very beautiful but also very dangerous. Since many years we haven't very heavy winter. That's why this arrow is decreasing. And as I mentioned, city is growing in population, as you can see here, and this of course forces the necessity of expansion to the upper terrace. Here you can see the cross section of our latitude. And since 15 years, we developed a lot of residential areas on the upper terrace with a lot of concrete, with a lot of unpermeable pavements, and this creates a risk of potential flood in the lower terrace. So as you can see here, we have a lot of events like you see here, due to, of course, heavy storms and also some breaking in embankments due to really high level in our streams and rivers. Our stormwater system against flood safety is retention reservoirs, which are located on the streams, as you can see here in the different latitude, at least 3 of latitude in upper terrace, medium, and the plateau. Most likely is the most extensive open network storage reservoirs in Poland. Now we have 51, and 52 is under the construction. You can see huge volume of retention system. And we can estimate, you can also see here how it's growing, the retention volume within the years, because we still developed a new one, because city is really happy to have this retention ponds. They are a good and proven solution in case of Gdańsk. That's why I put it here 5 marks, 5 stars, because they are really working well if they are operated and maintained properly. And some information, you can say that we have 3 types of reservoirs. They are called wet reservoirs. They work more or less like a pond, and they, in my opinion and in the opinion of the city, also they get only 2 marks because the biodiversity, as it was mentioned by my previous speaker, it was mentioned that the biodiversity is very it's now in price, so this biodiversity of the system is not so high as in compared to other retention ponds, but they are proven with some retention volume, but also not so high as the second type, which we can name semi-wet reservoir or semi-dry, when you have still the volume of wet area and volume of dry area, which could be used for retention during the storm events. I remind you that all the reservoirs in the city of Gdańsk are the recipient only of stormwater. So, of course, we have a lot of issue with the quality of water, but it's not so dangerous as in case of combined sewer network. So you can see different approach of this retention pond. Unfortunately, in the Gdańsk, we don't have the dry reservoirs, which are marked with me by 4 stars. It means that they create both a very big capacity for stormwater, also protect from the sea issue, and of course very nice biodiversity. This is the case study from Sopot next to Gdańsk. As you can see here in the Google map, this is the area of this installation of this dry reservoir. Here we have Gdańsk Bay, and here it's already Gdańsk. So the stream is coming from the hills, as you can see here, and very important here you can see how it's worked during the dry period, and here you can observe how it looked like when it's after storm events. Important part of this system is that we have here, when we have the outflow, we have here the gate which enable us to close the outflow and keep the water in the dry reservoir. Also, it's important when we have usually such situation that we have a heavy storm with very windy weather and wind from the north, which caused the issue that the stream is not able to be discharged to this to the Gdańsk Bay. That's why it's important to keep both the storm events and the stream in the city. During the last few years, the meteorological and hydrological measurement system was fully developed in the city. As you can see here, we have the sampling points and measurement points here, and this enable us to measure, because there was also a question today, if we see very heavy rain. Yes, I can say yes. In Gdańsk, it's a very big issue because we have 4 events in the last 20 years larger than 1 millimeters rain, which means that it's 100 years of rain. And also we see that we have a problem with so-called flash flood, and also, as you can see here, we have 3 events in 2 years ago, which was noticed and registered. Also, we faced with something like which is really dangerous for part of the cities, because it is called so-called microburst, and due to this system we can monitor this microburst. As you can see here, this is part of old town of Gdansk, where the precipitation within 30 minutes, less than 30 minutes, was 30 millimeters, as you can see, and in other districts there was actually no rain, like 5 millimeters here. So some people say, wow, it was so heavy rain events, and some people say, no, there was no rain at all. So in this case, our retention pond actually doesn't work. So climate change caused that the previous approach, previous strategy doesn't work. A previous strategy was like this, that we collect stormwater, discharge via a stormwater system into the reservoir or directly into the sea. Actually, this doesn't work, so there is a necessity to reveal the stormwater drainage system, to stop and delay the flow, use rainwater for green infrastructure watering, and of course to treat the rainwater to keep the good quality of the Gdańsk Bay. Current approach, which is by the company, is that we need to apply installation facilities, green areas, everything which was mentioned before, as a devices before pipe. It means that we start to use different facilities to keep the water, to retain the water, to evapotranspirate the water before we discharge to the network. Yeah, and the company Gdańskie Wody, as you can see here with the logo, they work out the system, which is based on a hand, 5 fingers. This all fingers needs to work together. As you can see, we have the reservoir retention, we have field retention, household retention, which was already mentioned, like green roofs, rain gardens. Rain gardens could be applied in the single-family houses or in the as a retention street, and so on. Urban greenery, but in my approach, I think that urban greenery we already have in the city a lot, as you can observe during the first slide. 24% of the area of Gdańsk is urban greenery, but the point is that the urban greenery should be green infrastructure with the potential to receive the stormwater and to keep the stormwater. I will show you in some examples that actually sometimes we have the capacity in the city, but we need to a bit modernize the system, and we need to develop the street retention system, which was of course mentioned before in the previous presentation. And here our company Gdańskie Wody, they have the approach by the leadership, by the example, and in 2017 they built the first rain garden in the city. It was built in the houses, actually buildings, where they keep the equipment and all the facilities which they need to maintain the system. As you can see, they collect the stormwater. The stormwater is collected here and then evapotranspirated or keep it. Actually, it works only 3 years, and we have this is the oldest, let's say, rain garden in the city. Actually, we don't have very big experience, because, for example, in this year, in this spring, we are waiting for the rain. They haven't been rain since 6 weeks, so we don't have any possibility to measure how the system actually work. Very important is also to create this green area, as you can see here, for retain the system. So it's enough to build some basin with green to keep the system. Here you can observe a very beautiful rain garden near the bus stop. Very important in this all action is to involve inhabitants. The company, the municipal company, has some such idea that if they create public rain gardens or public park rain gardens, because if this rain garden is a bit bigger or 2 or 3 stages, because they used to also to clean water, to keep water, and also to treat water, stormwater, before they discharge it. Then they ask, for example, children from kindergarten or from school to help them with planting the plants, and children then are very happy, and also parents are very proud. I used to go with my students for such rain gardens, and people are asking us and telling us that they are very proud of the system, and they are aware what for is the system. And I think this is very important, that people should be aware what for is it. Also, Gdańskie Wody issue the handbook how to create a rain garden in 5 steps. You can select between different solutions, which is appropriate for your place, for your house. Also, there is a movie which you can easily download and see how you should create your own rain gardens. Of course, there are some money from the city of Gdańsk to support if you would like to build your own rain garden in your house. Then you can apply for some extra money to do this. Of course, very important is promotion of the rain gardens, and this is from last year, the promotion during Dominican Fair. In the main street you can see 3 different kind of rain gardens which you can have in your possession. Here is the biggest, I think, in Europe rain gardens with 1.6 hectares. You can see here these are discharged to the stormwater system via these wheels. You can see here, yeah, this wheels. I think you follow me. And this is the place where you have different rain gardens or rigolas which collect water from the parking place. This enables this breaks in thresholds, enables the water to come through this system. So this is 2 years old, and also, as you can see, these are pictures from last week, and there is really very dry. We expect to rain tomorrow. And here I would like to show you very beautiful place, a very old one. You could see here the Google view. Here we have a very nice, very big streets which goes to the main street through the city, but the slope of the streets is very big. I think 20% or something like that. You can see here that we have a lot of green areas, and now short walk through the very beautiful cascade ponds. The origin is about 100 years old. This is the upper pond. Here is the medium pond, and maybe you could see here the lower pond. As you can see, the stream is not so impressive, not so big, but during the storm events, it's really become a danger. As you can see, the difference in latitude is done with this waterfall, and the waterfall is quite high, but it's a human-made waterfall. And what is the problem? The problem is that we have the area is on the right here on this figure. As you can see, we have this. We can see here this valley, as it was mentioned previously, and at the end is the street, Slovacki street. So during the rain, this valley is full of water, and the water end up in the street. In our point of view, it's not the best when you are not able to drive through the streets. So the idea was to use the green area as a green infrastructure. As you can see here, very simple way, the city wants to stop the water as with building the slow down treasure, with some break in the thresholds here, and water from here should go here and finally end up in this green infrastructure where behind this tree there is a stream. So finally there was still no possibility to look how it works, but we hope that it will work in future. Here you have the examples different how this stormwater urban surface retention system is developed in the city. A lot of points, as you can see, and after this year we hope that a lot of rain gardens in our city will be developed due to this some extra money from the city which was dedicated. We still have an issue with street and road design because, as I mentioned, during the storm events and after storm events, there is a problem with the communication. It's because our green areas usually are upper than the road. And as you can see here, the problem is that the green areas are dry and they drain, the water is going through the streets. Actually, in the point of view, my point of view and point of view of the city, it should be changed. It means that the green areas should be the recipient of stormwater. It means that we need to change the approach how to design streets and green areas. But it's up till now, it's a bit complicated. So coming up to some conclusions, the retention reservoirs located on the streams have been proven solution as a base of flood safety in Gdańsk, but of course it's not enough due to development of the city and of course climate change. So we need to change the approach to stormwater management, mainly in roads and streets. By using the green infrastructure, we need to maximize the green infrastructure like rain gardens, green roofs, and other retentions, green areas. And of course, rainwater should be treated as a valuable resources and used for irrigation of green areas. And this is it. This is my quotation, which probably you already know. In our approach, it is important that all retention levels are equally important and complementary to one another, and of course they need to provide as many as possible ecosystem service. So thank you for your attention, and I will be happy to answer for all your questions. Do not hesitate to contact with me if you would have any question. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Magdalena. It was, again, very interesting presentations with many good hints for our, I guess, participating audience and those in charge of building up stormwater solutions and planning for stormwater solutions. What should we take into account? And of course, the climate change pose all the time and challenge us all the time in finding new solutions. And that's what we have to deal with. But now we are a bit behind the schedule, but I suggest still to take a couple of questions that were posed by our audience. And first question, let's take them as they were sent. So first question is to Jess. and there is a question about 10 centimeter question. Is this level based on the level above the surface? And is it 10 centimeters above the driving lane level or 10 centimeters above the sidewalk level?
It is 10 centimeters at the house. So if you're in the inner city, the limit of your property is quite often the wall of your house. And from there, you sometimes have access to the basement, or maybe you have an entrance to come to the inner yard. So the 10 centimeters is against the building itself. If you are in my area, where I have a little house, there is a limit between the public space and the private space. It is so that the streets where I'm staying is private, so I in fact own half of the street out along my property. But the 10 centimeters apply to where I have my fence, the fence between private and public area. That's where the 10 centimeters apply. So it's 10 centimeters above the ground. So so you have to somehow protect the water doesn't get into your garden and into your house, or if you're in the city, especially if you have a basement entrance, you must lift the entrance so that you protect your buildings. That's one thing. And another thing, you also have on your sewer system, if you have a basement with a toilet or a floor drain, you need to put in non-return valves so that the combined sewer doesn't come into your basement through the toilet, for example.
Okay, thank you very much, Jess. And then there is another question. Let's take it about it's more a comment. Yeah, to avoid mosquito breeding, would water recirculation be an option?
Yes. I mean, as long as you circulate your water, you don't have mosquito breeding in a flowing stream or in a flowing river. You have little mosquito breeding if you have a lake with fish, a lake with biodiversity. Some of the fish are eating mosquito larvae, but mosquito breeding is typically in small ponds or small stagnant water. In Asia, they have for thousands of years been able to control mosquito breeding in rice paddies by increasing or lowering the water level. This was the task of the old people. But in some of the blue-green solutions we are seeing people are doing, it is important that it is designed so that the water will flow away, will disappear after 4 days or something like that. Then the eggs cannot hatch.
Yes, thank you very much. Now we have a question to Gdansk. So Magdalena, I would like to ask you about, can Gdańskie Wody invest in ponds, sales in parks, not utility but city assets? Can these investments be included in tariff? How high in euro is stormwater tariff per
Yeah, of course, we should introduce the tariff for stormwater, but now in Gdańsk we do not have any fee for discharge the stormwater. It's going to be in the future. That's why city of Gdańsk gives time for the inhabitants to get used to this approach that we will have in future. We will need to pay extra money. Up till now, the city is fully in-house of the companies, fully in-house of the city. That's why the reservoir are being constructed within the money of the city, or some support from extra funds from EU and other. So actually now we have no fee for stormwater.
Okay, thank you. And then there is another question. What is the main impact of the new Polish Water Act on sustainable stormwater management in Gdańsk? What is the role of Polskie Wody? What is the role of Polskie Wody?
Yeah, Polskie Wody, I would say it in this way, that Polskie Wody, it's quite tricky, yeah, because the company used to have the name Melioration in Polish. But since 2016, they changed the name for Gdańskie Wody, which is a bit, sounds similar like Polskie Wody, but actually Polskie Wody has no impact on Gdańskie Wody, because Gdańskie Wody are the in-house of the city, and only part of Vistula channel, as probably maybe you got it from this network of water in Gdańsk, that only part of a channel of Vistula belongs to Polskie Wody, and all streams and all creeks and reservoirs belongs to Gdańskie Wody, let's say, but actually belongs to the city.
Okay, thank you very much, Magdalena. I think those were two questions to you. And now I have there is a question to Kajsa. Kajsa, if you could answer this, are there any disadvantages of using biochar in filter media?
Yeah, thank you for the question. As I said, this is really a new solution in Helsinki, and I know that biochar has been used really widely, for instance, in Stockholm for water quantity management and for improving greenery, and they have been using it really successfully. But this perspective of using it also for quality management, is quite new. So of course we are following it also, measuring the water going into the system and out from it, and trying to make conclusions on that nothing else is leaking from the filter material.
Okay, thank you, Kajsa. And then there is another question. What amounts of biochar did you apply? What base material was used for production? Thank you.
Yeah, so the biochar was mixed with crushed stone or gravel. Now I actually don't remember the percentage of biochar, but it was quite low. If I remember correctly, something around 10% or something like that.
Okay, thank you very much, Kajsa. Cases that were presented by Kajsa can be also found in description of those cases can be found in Baltic Smart Water Hub. So please feel free to visit www.balticwaterhub.net, and there you can find a bit more details on the cases from Kajsa. Let's take a couple of more questions. There is one concerning why does the wet reservoir is not that high in biodiversity? And this is, it's not stated to whom, to which speaker it is addressed, but would you like to take it, Kajsa, as you, I think it was more
Sorry,
maybe for Gdańsk. Yeah?
I didn't actually hear the...
Okay, I will repeat. Why does the wet reservoir is not that high in biodiversity? But I'm not sure, it's not probably to you, maybe it's more to Magdalena, okay. She was talking about.
Yes, I think it's more to me. Why not? Because the biodiversity is created in general when you have different conditions as far as water level, deep, when you have shallow water, deeper water, then you have different possibilities for different plants with different demands, and for different not only plants but also for different animals species to be inhabited in such pond or reservoir. Usually wet ponds, wet reservoirs, they are constructed with the same deep, and that's why it's not so favorite the biodiversity. It was proven that semi-wet, or you can call it semi-dry system, are much more biodiverse, just like that. And also from the point of view of treatment, from treatment wetlands technology, you can learn that if you have different zones, like deep zones and shallow zones, then you have different type of plants which inhabit these places, and you have different processes which favor different removal processes. So from this point of view, I would say that ponds or reservoir are not actually treatment wetlands. They are simply less diverse, biodiverse than semi-wet or semi-dry ponds. I don't know if it's enough. This my answer. If you are satisfied.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much, Magdalena. Yes, I think this is enough, and more questions can be still sent to us, and we will publish answers also on our website. And one question still here to Matthias, and it's about a bit more global view. In a high density cities, especially in global South Africa and India, for instance, at what level sewage system is sustainable, since majority of them has combined sewage system?
So I didn't get the question completely. So it always depends on the situation, on the coverage of the surface, of course, but for sure at first you must ensure that the sewage will be discharged out the sediment and also will be treated to avoid infections and diseases. Or was it the wrong answer?
Yes, this is this is answer. I think it's good answer, but we have it from audience, so I can't perhaps much help on that, but let's hope it's sufficient. And there was one more. I think it was probably to you, Matthias. What is the website? Can we see more of the fact sheets about green techniques you have shown in your presentation? So where can we see more of the fact sheets about green techniques you showed?
Oh, so I must look up. We have developed together with some other consultants and also with the Berlin Senate a brochure, and this is also available on a website where there is always the description on the technology. So as I had this retention soil filter, for example, also the space demand and the efficiency. So I have to look up and can give the information later.
Yes, okay, thank you. We can include it also in the materials that we will be publishing on our website. So thank you, Matthias. We will collect it from you and publish it. Okay, I think that those were all the questions that we have at the moment, and because yes, the time unfortunately is running, so we have to close. It's already half an hour after our original schedule. So I would like to thank you very much to all of our interesting speakers for their presentations, and also for each of the for our audience for joining us today. And if you would like to get back and check out again the presentations and the materials, they will be available online. So please go to our website on www.ubc-sustainable.net in the events section, and also visit our Baltic Smart Water Hub for more good practices. This is, as I mentioned at the beginning, this is one of the fourth of the series of the webinars that we have in UBC. So we are going to have 2 more webinars, and I would like to invite everyone to the webinar on 26 May on good practices for sustainable and multimodal mobility, and 9 June on intelligent transport solutions piloting. So join us for this next month and share the webinar with your friends, and also if you enjoyed, tell them about the upcoming webinars, and I hope to see you back on the future webinars. So thank you very much to all the speakers. Once again, thank you for audience for tuning in, and I wish you a great week and a good May Day on Friday. Thank you so much, and bye.